It's 10 days in the year 2025. Good morning. Welcome to the Starr Breakfast News. Coming up this morning, President John Dramani Mahama allays fears of return of doomsday as he assures Ghanaians of committed resolve to keep lights on.
There's a threat of power outages, but my brothers and sisters, don't despair. Like I said, you elected us to solve the problems, not to put the blame on anybody else.
Also coming up, review of education at all levels in the offing as President Mahama hints of National Education Review Conference.
I'm going to set up a planning committee to start working on the National Education Review Conference that I promised. This conference will review our educational system right from the kindergarten through the basic to secondary to tertiary to technical, vocational education.
And later, acting spokesperson for the presidency justifies President Mahama's 3 ministerial nominees following backlash from the minority in parliament. You've got details of these stories coming up shortly, but first, let's remind you of our affiliate stations across the country.
Starr News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takrady, Zeps 95.9 FM in Zebila, Nissim 100.1 FM in Lamshao, My Star Radio in the USA, also live on Facebook on Starr 103.5 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Starr 103.5 FM, Starr News. Informed, in depth, in touch.
I am Nurein. Abass, many thanks to you for choosing Starr News. Now, President John Dramani Mahama has assured Ghanaians there will be no energy crisis, popularly known as doomsday, during his second term. According to him, his government is committed to resolving the crisis and preventing a return to the era of frequent power outages. He gave that assurance at the National Convention of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission in Ghana on Thursday.
We have to make provision for fuel, and this is light crude oil, heavy fuel oil, and distillate fuel. Unfortunately, enough provision was not made for this eventuality. When the fuel arrives, it takes time to import it, 3 weeks, place an order and get it delivered. And when it arrives, you have to treat the fuel for another week and a half to make it ready for use in the generating plants. And so there's a threat of power outages. But my brothers and sisters, don't despair. Like I said, you elected us to solve the problems, not to put the blame on anybody else or to shoulder you with those problems. And so they are called a meeting of all the stakeholders in the electricity value chain. And they have been sitting to come out with innovative solutions so that we're able to keep the lights on. And so I can assure you with some of the ideas they've come up with, we would make sure that your lights stay on and that we do not have doomsday, as you popularly call it.
President John Dramani Mahama speaking there. Now, meanwhile, the West African Gas Pipeline Company has hinted of a possible postponement of a plant maintenance. This is to afford government more time to avert the impending power crisis, despite the efforts and assurances from government operators of printing houses are dreading the impact of unstable power supply on their businesses. There's more in the following report.
The country's power grid is on the brink of major crisis as the government urgently requires nearly $90 million to secure fuel for thermal power plants, according to a report by the Ghana Grid Company, Gridco. The report warns of potential power outages, popularly known as doomsday, if immediate action is not taken. Gridco's report highlights that the funds are needed to purchase liquid fuel such as light crude oil to keep thermal plants in thermal operational and meet rising electricity demand. The shortage will be experienced due to a planned maintenance exercise by WAPCO in a bid to buy more time. A committee established by the Chief of Staff, Julius Debra, is negotiating with WAPCO for a postponement of the maintenance. Here is Managing Director of the company, Michelle Beckett.
Urgently with our vendors. Right now we are still working to get commitment, but there is a possibility of a slight deferral. It won't be the full month, but we're looking at up to potentially 2 weeks deferral in the start of the operation. We're continuing to work with our vendors today to see if we can make those commitments firm. But that is our target right now, is to look for as much possible deferral.
We'll bring you the full version in subsequent bulletins. Now, President John Dramani Mahama has announced plans to establish a planning committee for a national education review conference to reform Ghana's educational system. The proposed National Education Review Conference will examine the education system from kindergarten through the tertiary level, including technical and vocational education. Speaking at the National Convention of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission Ghana at Winneba in the Central Region, President Mahama noted that the conference will identify obstacles to quality education at each level and propose solutions to address them.
We will address challenges such as overcrowding to ensure quality education at all levels. Our plans also include free tuition for first-year students entering public tertiary institutions, the completion of abandoned e-blocks, and investments to provide equitable learning opportunities nationwide and across the whole education value chain. These initiatives will empower our youth with the skills needed to excel in a rapidly changing world. We shall emphasize technical vocational education and training so that we can produce the skilled manpower that is needed for business and industry. I'm going to set up a planning committee to start working on the National Education Review Conference that I promised. This conference will review our educational system right from the kindergarten through the basic to secondary to tertiary to technical vocational education and identify what the hindrances to quality education are at each level of our educational system.
You heard President John Dramani Mahama. Now, acting spokesperson for the presidency, Felix Kwakye-Fosu, has defended President Mahama's nomination of 3 ministers. The president on Thursday nominated Dr. Kasila Tuforsin for the finance ministry, John Jinapor for energy, and Dr. Dominic Aine as Minister for Justice and Attorney General. The list, which was submitted to Parliament, was, however, met with intense scrutiny from the minority, who said the announcement of only 3 nominees means the NDC is not ready for power. Here is Minority Leader Alexander Fenyomarkin questioning the rationale behind the piecemeal announcements.
When the names were read out by Mr. Speaker, he read out only 3 names: the Finance Minister Designate, the Energy Minister Designate, and the Attorney General and Minister of Justice Designate. Mr. Speaker, this thought appointment is unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, this is a government that promised a 24-hour economy. In opposition, they told us that they were ready for government.
You heard Minority Leader in Parliament Alexander Fenyomarkin, but spokesperson for the presidency Felix Kwakye-Fosu will have none of that and insists there will be more of such announcements in the coming days. In reaction, an economist and senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Patrick Esumin, has been reacting to the nomination of Dr. Atuforsin as the finance minister. He tells Starr News the current majority leader is well placed for the job and the battles ahead.
I think that it seems like it's a reasonable choice. He has the experience and he has the requisite training and background. You know, I think he's been a deputy finance minister before, served on finance committee, but also, his training background is quite interesting. He has a PhD, specialization in finance. He has a master's in taxation, and he also has a master's in economics. So in the finance ministry, you need all of those skills. Function effectively, you need to have background in public sector accounting, taxation, and of course, you need to know a fair amount about how an economy works. So on that score, I think in terms of qualification and experience, you can say that it's a good choice. But time will tell how well he'll perform it.
You heard economist and senior lecturer at University of Ghana Business School, Professor Patrick Assuming. There is growing public outcry against the recurring lawlessness and looting of state property during political power transitions. Many well-meaning Ghanaians believe this counterproductive phenomenon undermines national growth and development, calling for sustainable measures to end the practice once and for all. Here is a report filed by Peter Kwao Adato.
Moments after former Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia conceded defeat, reports emerged of groups identifying themselves as members of the National Democratic Congress, attacking state institutions, vandalizing properties, and seizing state assets. These incidents, reportedly occurring across the country, targeted key institutions. Perpetrators claimed their actions were retaliation to similar events by the NPP in 2017, dubbing it payback time.
People have been here for over 30 years. It has never happened. 2017, when they came to power, they came and demolished the whole place. Now, they're still developing. The people are coming to take what is belonging to them.
The security agencies, with the support of some well-meaning NDC leaders, intervened to restore order. It was hoped that, following the inauguration of President John Dramani Mahama on January 7, 2025, such incidents would cease. President Mahama himself, in his inaugural speech, condemned the act of vandalism and urged restraint, emphasizing the need to focus on national development rather than divisive actions.
I'm a bit concerned about some of the things that are happening. I know that in 2017, that is what the MPP did. Attack, go to government offices and throw people out, stop people on the street and take cars from them. We must not do the same thing. And so rather than take a law in our own hands, open fertilizer depots and take fertilizer, open warehouses and take rice and things, let us show MPP that we're different.
The full report will come to you in subsequent bulletins. That brings us to the end of the breakfast news this morning. When you log on to starfm.com.gh, you'll find more news update there. I am Nurein Abass. Many thanks for your company. Next, we have Jones Aji with Sports Chat. Do stay tuned in.